Hey guys, it's Dani. Alrighty, I know that I didn't post anything yesterday, and that's because we were kind of wrecked yesterday. We went at the event on Friday night. Anyway, I will make up for it this week, not a problem. And you know how I have 2 days off? Well, guess what? I won't have 2 days off anymore, but I figured out a little way to post something on those days for you guys. Have a little bit of a surprise for you. You'll see it on my days off, which are Wednesdays and Thursdays, or Tuesdays and Wednesdays, middle of the week. So yeah, you will see this week what I'm on about. But today we're gonna be answering a few more questions that you guys have sent to me. Hopefully you will see the question that you left on my videos. If you don't worry, I'm taking all of my comments and reviewing the questions and saving the questions, and I will be responding at a later date. So feel free to leave me questions down below in the comments of this video or on other videos. So with that said, let's get on to answering some questions. Mary is asking which orchids I do not recommend for growing in semi-hydroponics. And well, this again, I think it's pretty subjective because it might just have to do with environment. Personally, I tend to grow pretty much everything in semi-hydro. They're doing okay, but I would not put a pure terrestrial in semi-hydro. Or at least I would test it first. The reason is that pure terrestrial orchids might not need as much air around the root system, and more air around the roots might not be beneficial for them. Let's just think about roses, I don't know, a different type of terrestrial plant. If it would live in the airy conditions that the orchids can live in, we'd all be growing it in semi-hydro. There are certain plants that go, but many plants don't usually do all that great in semi-hydro. So my vanilla does not grow in semi-hydro, but I do want to test it out. I might be wrong. So I would not risk it if you have a terrestrial that you really care about, but if you have a few, maybe you have some jewel orchids, get a branch or something and put it in semi-hydro and see how he's doing. Another orchid that doesn't do all that well for me in semi-hydro, I suppose, is the Vanda. Maybe I might try, I don't know. I had my Vandas in clay. One of the Vandas was sitting in pure leca, not semi-hydro, but pure leca. They didn't like it. The roots completely just died off. Mind you, the roots were pretty adjusted to air. But since that experience, I'm not tempted to put my Vandas in semi-hydro. So yet again, I would be a little careful with Vandas. But since it's so airy, the semi-hydro setup, it might actually work. But yet again, it might have to do with the environment. A Vanda that is grown in a cooler environment where water doesn't evaporate will pretty much be okay bare-rooted, just as it would be okay bare-rooted in a warm climate as well. Semi-hydro, different. It would work better in a warmer climate, but not as good in a cooler climate. So there is a bit of a difference. Anyway, these are the two orchids that I personally would not put in semi-hydro, pure terrestrials and Vandas. But you know, in the future, I might try it out. If I have candidates, of course. Daniela Chapman, sorry, that's my name, and I don't know, it made me smile. So she's asking what's wrong with her Phalaenopsis. She only produced 2 flower spikes in 5 years. It gets fed and watered once a week, gets a lot of bright light, not direct sun, has many leaves and roots, and looks very healthy. Am I doing something wrong? Well, I don't think you're necessarily doing something wrong if you are watering when you're supposed to water it, but since you have it for 5 years, I'm not going to teach you how to water it. You obviously know. If it looks healthy and all, I don't think it's a care issue. It might just have to do with that cool down that Phalaenopsis complex hybrids need in order to initiate flower spikes. Now, I have a video on the subject, but it's so old. I think I will redo it. What do you guys think? Should I redo the video? Anyway, I'll just answer you now. I'm not going to link you to the video because it's too old and cringy. Pretty much, Phalaenopsis orchids after summer, so usually somewhere in the autumn, need to experience a cool down. Temperatures of about 17-18 degrees Celsius for about 2 weeks or 3 weeks usually is enough to make orchids produce flower spikes. Now, Phalaenopsis that are grown in the home or in a very temperature stable environment, sometimes they might not grow. And this is because they have that warm temperature that keeps telling them, you know what, grow more leaves, grow more roots, grow vegetatively. So look into that. Try to make sure that you do provide that cool down in autumn time, whenever autumn might be for you. The way to do so is to maybe just place the orchid in front of a window, let it receive temperatures that are cooler from outside, or if you live in a very warm country, maybe you can use the AC during nighttime. So that would be my guess if you say the orchid looks and behaves very healthy. Chris has a question related to Phalaenopsis being transferred in semi-hydroponics, and they're asking if aerial roots on a Phalaenopsis adapt faster to semi-hydro than to any other medium? Well, I have to tell you that I am not entirely sure. My orchids have quite a lot of pot roots, the Phalaenopsis, so whatever was in the pot, I maintained in the pot. Whatever was aerial, I left outside. That would be a nice experiment to try out, so I will do that. However, though, for your problem, or actually for your query, it's not a problem, what you can do is a test. Get a Phalaenopsis orchid, not all of them. One of them, find a transparent pot and do a sort of semi-hydro simulation, in the sense that if you want to use different types of pots, maybe a colored pot for semi-hydro, don't use it, go for clear, just so you can see what's happening with the roots. Pot an orchid with a few aerial roots inside, put them at the side of the pot so you have clear view of them, and just give the orchid a month in semi-hydro and see how the roots are behaving. If they can adapt, then perfect. That's great. You can start changing more and more phals and putting more and more aerial roots inside the pot. If you see the aerial roots start to get mushy and dark and brown, that's not a good sign, and obviously you might not want to put the aerial roots inside. So because I don't know what's going to happen, I think it's best to try out in a clear pot. A simulation of semi-hydro, I think, is the best way to try it out. Nina is telling us that she's growing her Neophanetia in sphagnum moss, and she just transferred a Vanda into sphagnum moss, planted in the same way, and it seems to be doing quite well. And she's asking if I've ever tried this method before and if she should keep the Vanda in sphagnum. Well, I did have my Neo, this exact one, in sphagnum moss. I'll link you down below. It was a little baby of an orchid. She did perfectly fine. However, though, Neophanias, even though they're reclassified as Vandas now, oh no, they're not Vandas. They behave differently. So, as I was saying to the previous viewer, I had really bad results with my Vandas in a more confined environment where air circulation was not as great. Now, whether this was because the roots were not adapted or there was something in my environment or I did it wrong, I cannot tell you. However, though, I have a little bit of a problem with Vandas in medias that don't offer a lot of air circulation. So the best thing that I think you should do is to just observe the Vanda. If she looks like she's doing okay, then that's perfect. But you should keep an eye on it for the next few months, more than you would normally a normal Vanda. Take a look at the roots, see if any of them show signs of blackening, browning, getting mushy, dying off without reason, and stuff of the sorts. If you see signs of that starting to happen, then I think you should get the Vanda out of there. If nothing bad happens, then maybe it's gonna work. Maybe your environment is perfectly suited for that kokedama. I think you have it in a kokedama style. Who knows? So yes, definitely you should keep trying it, but pay very, very close attention to the roots of the Vanda and take action accordingly if it's gonna be the case. If not, then congratulations. I think it's a beautiful display. But mind you, Neophanesias do not behave like Vandas, at least in my opinion, even though now they're both called Vandas. Anne is asking me if I have a specific way to disinfect my leca, and well, yes I do. I simply boil it. I boil it for 5 or 10 minutes or however much I forget it on the stove. I think that's the easiest way to disinfect it. It also dislodges any deposits through the vibration of boiling, and that's how I personally disinfect my leca. I don't need to rinse it afterwards. If I would use substances like bleach, I would have to properly rinse it afterwards. With boiling, I don't. You can also oven it, but through the oven you are not dislodging or dissolving whatever salt deposits you might have on used leca. And P.S. I only disinfect used leca so I can use it with other orchids. Brand new leca doesn't really need disinfecting. It needs soaking, some brands at least. I don't have any reasons to disinfect my brand new leca. If you have reasons, then you should disinfect it. You can just boil it, that's okay. It's not gonna degrade it, it's not gonna do anything to it because it's not organic. Maddie Miss Laddie, I love your name, says that she has one of those dancing ladies yellow oncidium types that grew a brand new flower spikes 3 feet tall, and in centimeters it would be 85 centimeters, way taller than she's ever seen a flower spike. So what is it? Genetics, lack of sun, fertilizer, any possible way to control that? I think you should be happy. A possible way to control that would be to stress the orchid, and we don't want to do that. Yes, I understand that a tall flower spike can be a little messy, can take up too much space, but what you have there, if your orchid is that sweet sugar type, is a really rare thing, and it would not be possible without proper care, fertilizer, light, and all of those things. So I think you should be pretty proud of yourself and of the orchid. It might also have to do with genetics as well, yes, but no matter how good the genetics of an orchid are, if it doesn't have the proper care, if it's stressed, you know, it will not display its full potential. So maybe you don't necessarily have the sweet sugar, maybe you have something else, or maybe it's a sweet sugar with some pretty pumped up genetics, or you just treated it like no one ever treats their Oncidium. Whatever the case might be, I would be pretty happy in your place, and I would try to accommodate for the little monster somewhere in the house. I'd love to see a picture though, if you have a picture. I think we would all love to see it because I've never seen one that tall, and I suppose it's pretty impressive. And that's about it for today. As I was saying, just leave me your comments and your questions down below, and I'll be sure to take screenshots and answer those questions in my following Q&As. So you know the drill. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe to my channel for regular, or actually daily, I think, once again, orchid videos. And yeah, stay tuned for the middle of the week to see what I'm on about. And with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Now what you see in front of you is not the very same orchid. You might already know my pink Cattleya. Well, I have another one, but we're gonna be talking about it in a different video. It looks almost identical, very similar to my old Cattleya. The only difference is the fragrance. So one of them is identified. It is the Ronnie Vaughan, which is that one. I received it from one of my lovely viewers, and it looks so similar to my pink one. It's incredible, and I will show it to you in a different video. But the fragrance is completely different. It's quite wonderful.